So I guess it's time to find out whether becoming a dad makes you slower, and what better way to find that out than with a brand new fleet of karts where they should all be about as equal as they're ever going to be. This video is brought to you by you. Thank you so much for simply being here and enjoying my content. Please do leave a comment, like the video, and consider subscribing if you haven't already for a chance to see your name here in a future video. So, hello everyone and welcome to another real life racing episode. This is my first race of the 2025 season. It's actually the fourth round of the championship. I missed the first three because I was off busy becoming a father. So this was my first race back. I was obviously, as always, going to be a little bit rusty. It was cold, it was wet, the track wasn't really drying. So it was very difficult conditions, and I certainly had a pretty rough first lap, I think it's fair to say. I managed to qualify third, which was actually pretty good. I mean, I am still in the heavyweight class, so I'm sort of one of the lightest in the heavyweight class, but I was still over that 80 kilos to continue to be in that, as I was from the end of last season. And yeah, the qualification went pretty well. To qualify in third place is pretty good. I don't normally qualify that high, or at least hasn't been the case for a while. I generally race better than I qualify, but certainly the first lap, the rustiness of not having done it for a while, and the fact that it was wet conditions, I really struggled with it. And yeah, I just placed myself in the wrong place from those first couple of corners. I was on the outside because that's where you get the better grip, but that doesn't really help if people are just going to use you as the outside of the corner to just use you to stop themselves, basically, and that's kind of what happened. So yeah, I was kind of just feeling my way into the race, but I wasn't really anywhere I doing the right things, and I was in the wrong position there as well, so I got overtaken down to 8th place, and that was just because he was in the right place to take the outside of the corner. Because the track wasn't really drying, as I'm able to get one position here from someone spinning out, so you do have to make sure that you're at least keeping going in the right direction, because it's easy to spin out and just lose a load of places. Because the track wasn't really drying, there wasn't really a chance to go offline or try to seek out the drier parts of the track on the regular racing line, which is what you would normally do on a drying track, but that doesn't really happen here because it is just too slippy. And by offline, I mean sort of the opposite to what you would think. In the wet conditions, you want to be driving around the outside of the circuit because all the rubber gets laid down on the inside in the dry, and then when it rains, that rubber on the track becomes more wet, so you want to be staying off that as much as possible. That's why you see me go around the outside of all these corners. As I got up there to 6th place, as somebody else sort of again tried to go on the inside and it was too slippy and just went straight off the track. So yeah, it was a bit of a rough first couple of laps. Good qualifying position. I was pretty happy to get 3rd place, but yeah, just being in the wrong place, positioning myself in the wrong place really. And it's been a long time actually since we've done a wet race. I think the entirety of last season at this track for this championship, there wasn't a single wet race. So alongside coming back after not having raced at all for a good 6 months, I was just a little bit too rusty, to be honest, on these first couple of laps. So it doesn't take long for that to come off and gradually start to get back into it. And I'm able to do that here. It's sort of taken 2 laps. I'm back up to 6th place, and I feel like the pace is starting to come a little bit now, and maybe I can try to catch up to those in front who have get ahead of me, basically. So yeah, as I alluded to at the start of the video, there is a brand new fleet of go-karts at this track, and they were sorely needed. If you've been watching the previous years of this series, you'll know that they were definitely needed. The pace difference and disparity in performance of some of the karts that they had was absolutely crazy. So it's nice that they've got a new fleet. They're brand new, and basically I feel like that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be actually all equal, but it means they are as equal as they will ever be. They're only going to get less equal from this point on, because they are still higher karts. They are all different, but they're as close together as they would otherwise be. Now at this point I got a really good line, obviously going right around the outside of the chicane here, that allows me to keep up the speed and the grip and get a good line and a good exit down the back straight, and then I decided to try it all the way around the outside. You can get quite good grip out here on the concrete. I'm able to get a good run out of that because of that, carrying the speed around the outside, and that allows me to get to the outside here. So set it up a few corners in advance. I was really pleased with that move. I felt like I did really well to get back up into 5th place, and then I go and botch it immediately.
Oh, come on, you idiot. All that great work and then you fluff it up.
Idiot. Just why would I do that, you know? So again, just a bit of that rust coming off of not having done it for a while, I think. And ultimately it stays like that for the remainder of the race. I was up into 5th and doing well, made that mistake, and then ultimately I wasn't able to do anything from losing those 2 positions. It did start to rain a little bit halfway through the race, so that lap 6 I think it was my best lap, and then we actually got a little bit slower as the rain came down a little bit more, and it did catch one person out, which managed to allow me to get back up into 6th place. But nevertheless, you know, it wasn't the greatest return, but I think the fact that there were so many people actually not finishing the race or spinning off and losing a lot of positions, it could have been a lot worse. And probably, even though I was a little bit rusty in terms of my positioning of the kart, and I could have finished in a higher position just on pace maybe, the experience that I have allowed me to just make it to the end and come home in 6th place. So yeah, and like I said, I think it was a bit of a shame that it was in like this first race was in the wet, because you know, they are a brand new fleet of karts. They're all as equal as they're going to be. You want to kind of test yourself to see, certainly I do, to see whether I've still got it, because it's difficult to do that, even though, you know, for example, in the last race I won the final, but you don't know how much of that is down to the kart that you have. We'll ignore that little mistake on the last corner and the last lap there, but got away with it just. But you know, you don't know how much of this is down to the karts that you get, whether the quicker drivers just happen to be in a bad kart and you happen to be in a really good one and such. So it's always, you know, this is my first experience actually of all the karts being equal and having a brand new fleet of karts, and thankfully the second race was a bit more dry. So I obviously started in 6th place, which is where I finished the previous race, but it was a bit of a mess at the start. I actually got a decent start off the grid, but I went the wrong side and 2 people in front of me didn't get a good start and just blocked the way. So that one was a bit unlucky, certainly, and thanks to my 24-hour karting buddy Tom Shipman for the outside perspective of the start. You know, that was I certainly the first race, it was my fault. I had really bad positioning with my kart. This one, I feel like, yeah, I was just unlucky to choose the wrong side to go, to be honest. If I'd gone left off the grid, I probably would have made quite a few positions, but here I was down in 7th. I managed to gain a position to get back up to 6th, and it looked like it was still a wet track, and that's why you're seeing some people still doing the wet lines. But you can also see that some people aren't, and I'm not. So on the lap to the grid, I actually tested to see how dry it was and whether it was possible to do the normal dry lines, so not going around the outside of the corners, just taking the normal racing line, and it seemed perfectly possible. So you always want to be doing that as early as you possibly can. If you can get on the dry line, even if it's a little bit slippy, as long as you're not slipping off the track, then it's worth doing. So that was what I was doing on most of the corners, and it certainly helped me on this first lap to sort of get back into a decent position after the rough start. As you can see, you know, just through the only exception was this final corner, as you can see there, but I'll talk about that in a second. So I managed to get back up into 4th place, but as we cross the line, that goes back down to 5th, because the person who was in pole position, who won the previous race, had a really rough start. The kart just completely stopped on him at the grid, so they put him back out into the lead, and you can see him just in front. So basically I'm in 5th place, and the top 4 you can see right in front of us. So coming on to lap 3, the leader is just a bit ahead, and then we've got a battle over 2nd place, which I'm just sort of at the moment just keeping an eye on, because it's a little bit dicey, it's a little bit rough, certainly, especially the guy sort of on the left now, as you'll see the movie just makes here. He's certainly just putting his cart anywhere, and it's not the cleanest, you could say. So whilst this was going on, I was aware that we were all being slowed down by this, but also I just felt like, let's just keep an eye on this. Let's just sit here and take an opportunity when it arises, but not try to force the issue too much at the moment. But then I get hit up the back by this guy in the red, and he just takes advantage of it. So I'm kind of a little bit peeved at the moment, because usually if I hit someone in the back and they're slowed down because of it, I'll just let them get back ahead. Obviously he wants to take advantage, so I felt like I was much quicker than this guy, because I'd already pulled away from him in the early part of the race. So I get the nice little cut back there, but he's still up the inside of me all around here, but that gives me the inside for the next corner, and I'm able to stay ahead. And I felt like at the time that was going to be important, and it was, because obviously I've lost a lot of time to the people up in front, as you can see, but as we come on to lap 7, a couple of laps further ahead, I'm right back up with them again. And that's because I'd been I wasn't held back. We completely dropped the guy in the red behind. He was just gone, basically. So we were a good sort of 2, 3, 4 seconds a lap quicker than basically everybody else behind in this top 5 group. So I'd pulled up to the top few who were battling with each other. We had the really aggressive guy who we saw earlier. He's been causing a lot of stuff going on up in front. They caught up to, and everybody sort of caught up to the leader. The leader's sort of come back to us. So now we're in a 5-way fight for the win, with a massive gap to the guy in the red, 6th place, and everybody else behind. So I wasn't worried about losing a position at this point. It was all just, again, focusing forward, seeing as what I could do, and because I knew that I was looking from back and seeing how aggressive it was. Obviously the guy on the grass and then comes back on, and it's certainly not the cleanest driving I've ever seen in these races. And as we come on to sort of the end of lap 8 and the start of lap 9, I'm right there with this 4, and I was just like, okay, this is it. Let's give it a go. Let's see what we can do. Let's get mixed in with it. Now's the time. And it didn't take long for that to happen, because the really aggressive guy who we saw earlier, he just goes right up the inside on the slippy inside part of the first corner and just flies off the track, taking out other people with him. And I'm up into 2nd place, gained 3 positions in one corner, just because someone went way too aggressive into the first part of it. So I'll take that. That's absolutely fine. And I've been just minding my own business at this point, but I've also felt quite quick. I've managed to catch up to the lead group and stick with them pretty easily, and that gave me confidence, especially considering it's a brand new fleet of karts. They're all the same. That gives me confidence that, hey, I can still race around here. So yeah, it's fun in that respect. I spy an opportunity here to go up the inside, going into the hairpin, and manage to get the move done. That puts me up into 1st place, but I make a mistake in the final corner, and you might have seen that I've always been taking a bit of a wide line. I am getting hit up the back a little bit, but I've been taking a wide line because early on in the race, the inside of the corner was way too slippy, and it was better to take the wider line, as you saw on the very first lap, get a better exit. But that had dried up steadily as the race had gone on, but I hadn't noticed that. Unlike noticing all the other corners as I'd been able to get back to the racing line quickly, that was the one corner that I hadn't, and by going around the outside still, it allowed people the chance to get up the inside, as you saw, and that put me back down into 4th place. So just easy come easy go, I guess, in terms of getting up into the lead and then losing it again. But it was such a fight here, and with that sort of half move for the guy in 3rd, I had the run going into the right-hander here, and that got me back up into 3rd place. I was obviously, you have to take these opportunities as they come, like I did with getting up into the lead, and you've got to make these things stick. But at this point, you can see the top 2 are a little bit further ahead now. They've got a bit of a gap, and I'm having to defend from the guy behind who I just overtook. He's still right there, as you can see, and I'm trying to solidify this 3rd place, but as we are battling, we're certainly losing time to, and now I finally go to the inside of the final corner, but it was too little too late. But he's still right there, and I'm basically at this point, I know that I'm in a fight for 3rd place. I'm in a fight for the final spot on the podium, the final trophy. Top 3 get a trophy from this race, and the top 2 have enough of a gap now, in my opinion, at this stage, especially with only 2 laps to go, that we're not really going to catch them up at this point, especially because even if they're battling, there's only 2 of them, so they're not going to lose too much time from that, unlike when there's a pack of 3 or 4 are going to lose a lot more time if, you know, one person's just chasing from behind. And I'm under immense pressure from the guy in 4th place, as you can see. I'm certainly, you know, having to really be quite defensive to be able to keep the position, and that is losing us time. So at this point my mindset is just, okay, I'm in a fight for 3rd place. Let's forget about the top 2, they're gone already. Let's think about keeping this 3rd, and I'm pretty happy with my defending so far to keep 3rd place, but there's one more lap to go and it's all basically down to this. But ultimately I've been able to keep pace with this top 5 group racing at the front in a brand new equal fleet of karts, and you know, I've got to be happy with that, you know, because it's not difficult for me to feel self-doubt about my own performances, especially, you know, when the karts are so different. You never quite know whether it's you or the kart. Certainly I don't, and I always think, okay, well, am I just that bad? But this is the one time where there's a brand new fleet of karts and they're all as equal as they can be, where you get a proper sense of your actual pace and how well you're able to drive in comparison to others, how your pace is in comparison to the top people. And I was in the top fight, in the top group, so, you know, I'm happy about that, and it's all about whether I can keep this 3rd place coming to the line. Funnily enough, in the lightweights race, the podium was made up of Tom Shipman and Andrew Penfold, who were 2 of my 24-hour teammates from last year. Kevin Hunter, who also got a present for my newborn son that I'll put a picture of on screen. He won this race just up ahead. So, and then I was able to finish in 3rd place with, thankfully, doing some pretty decent defense to keep it, get a trophy, and that made all 4 of the 6 teammates from the 24-hour race were on the podium this round, in 2 in the lightweight race, 2 in the heavyweight race, which was kind of nice. So yeah, a decent first round back. Obviously I'll be doing a couple more rounds at least, and then we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's nice to be racing with karts that are a lot more equal. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this one. It's funny that I qualified in 3rd place and then throughout all the races had multiple changes of position and ultimately finished the final race back in 3rd place where I qualified at the very start. So I don't think when you consider that the top 3 in the qualifying finished in the top 3 in the final, just the top 2 changing their positions from 1st to 2nd, and I was obviously 3rd for both, that wouldn't have had a chance of happening with the kart differences in the previous seasons, with all the karts being swapped around after the first race. So, you know, it's good to have a bit of consistency in that respect. So we'll see what the future brings in the next few rounds. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next time.